Hey everyone, this is Sherry with Serenity for the Soul. Coming to you tonight to discuss garden planting and to share some pictures I took today. I took a little drive up to Bartlett Lake north of Phoenix through the desert, and because the poppies and the lupines have started blooming, and I got some really pretty pictures. It's the kind of yellowy orange poppies, and this hillside's just covered with them. The lupines are blooming good too, but they're harder to see from a distance. But I got some pictures of both of them blooming, and I actually came across a white poppy blooming too. So, and then I took some scenery pictures and various things, so I'll share that stuff with you at the end of this. Yeah, I just want to talk a little bit about my gardening and how it's expanded over the last few years. So I was always a person who planted a lot of pots of flowers, and I had some perennials in front of my house, things like that, some blooming shrubs, and I've expanded and contracted my flower beds over the years. So I used to have a couple of perennial beds that weren't doing what I wanted them to do, so I took those out several years ago. And then I've been slowly increasing the area where I have flowers again. As far as vegetable gardening goes, I never had done a lot of vegetable gardening as an adult. Growing up, my dad loved gardening, and we had a humongous garden out on my grandparents' farm, and I just always remember how much work it was, and I had tried starting a garden a couple of times, and my husband wasn't a big vegetable eater, and I'm not a huge vegetable eater. There's certain things I really like, but I don't eat a huge variety of things. So like I said, I had started a garden a couple of times and just let it go after a year or two, because it just wasn't a priority as our kids were growing up, and we had so much going on in the summertime, and there was just never time. So in 2016, I believe, can't remember for sure, but we had a swimming pool on our back deck, and we took the swimming pool out, and we had a deck that went all the way around it, so we took all the deck off that went around the pool except the about 8 to 10 foot that was like on the house side of the pool we left, and kind of redid it a little bit. And on our pool deck, when we had the pool, our builder had built these benches for the kids to have something to sit on, plus it was storage then for all the pool stuff. And they were just cedar benches, 2 of them 8 foot long. So when we took the pool out, I took the lids off of those benches and lined them with a mesh black liner and filled them with dirt, and those became my what I planted vegetables in. So they were 8 foot long by about 20 inches wide. So I mean, you didn't plant a lot of stuff in them, but it was enough space to plant 5 or 6 green bean plants, 2 or 3 tomato plants, 2 or 3 cucumber plants. I planted radishes, onions, peppers, 1 or 2 pepper plants, things like that. I don't eat a lot of that stuff, but I like to make salsa, so a lot of the ingredients were for my salsa, and and we ate the green beans and cucumbers. I would make pickles with. So anyway, so that was the extent of my vegetable garden. And also on that back deck area, I had other planters and things that I had flowers planted in. So it was always kind of a plant area after we took the pool out. And after my husband died, just it wasn't enough, I guess. You know, that was something that I could spend time doing. I go out every morning and water if it's stuff needs watered, pick stuff if stuff needs picked, you know, do whatever. And so I decided to expand a little bit. So I went down in front of the deck on the ground and I tore up a strip that was about probably 6 foot wide, and the length of the deck, which was 20 some feet. And planted a few more things down there. Planted watermelon, which actually did really well. Planted some squash, just kind of expanded what I had going on. Planted a little more of the other stuff and whatever. Planted some potatoes, did this, that, and the other, whatever. And then 3 years ago, I decided to take an expanded area from that 6 foot, and I put plastic down, mulched the whole area, probably 20 by 24 foot, something like that. And I bought 2 8x4 raised bed gardens that are 24 inches tall, which is easier for me and in my back, as far as gardening in the ground is kind of difficult for me as I get older, and having those raised beds makes it easier on your back. So I started researching and I started doing something called square foot gardening with these beds, and it's amazing how many plants you can plant in a square foot. Now, the first year I went strictly by what the proponents of this square foot gardening, people who had started it or started the concept or whatever, or had been doing it for a while. And I felt that stuff was a little too compacted. One thing you have to keep in mind when you're doing square foot gardening is the size the plants are going to get and which way your sun's coming from and everything, because you don't want plants to get big and shade out other plants. So things did well, but there were some things that didn't do as well, I think, because I think they were a little too crowded out by other plants. So I've tried over the last couple of years to kind of come up with a system that works best for me. So I will put a link on here as far as some resources for square foot gardening, but in the beginning when I was doing it, they would say you could plant one tomato plant per square foot. And I did, and some of them did okay and some of them didn't. So this year I did 1 tomato plant per 2 square feet. So on my 8 foot side I would have 4 tomato plants. And it also depends, you know, if you're planting a determinate tomato versus an indeterminate tomato. I would say if you're planting determinate tomatoes, you could probably put them a little closer together than that. I had kind of a mixture going on, so yeah, so anyway, I kind of took a little more space. As an example, they say 9 green beans can be planted in a square foot. I have cut that down to 6. So I'll throw some pictures in here of kind of what my stuff looks like. I think the most it shows is like 16, excuse me, 16, like when you're doing carrots or radishes, things like that. I honestly, when I'm doing my carrots and radishes, still just kind of take a square foot and make little rows in the square foot and plant them how I always planted them. Lettuce seed I will just sprinkle in its like area as far as that goes. But I can give you a list of what like what they say each plant, you know, you should have in each. And with lettuce, you know, it makes a difference if it's leaf lettuce or head lettuce too, obviously. Leaf lettuce I just kind of sprinkle and let go. Head lettuce, if I sprinkle like that, then I go back and I thin down to the number of plants that would be reasonable for a square foot, which I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but I will, like I said, I'll attach some more information on this video. So anyway, so we're getting to that time of year when I'm starting to try to plan. So, and what always gets me excited is I start getting things like this in the mail. So then I have to start thinking about, okay, what am I doing this year? Because it's never the same. And like I said, I'm not a big vegetable eater, so a lot of the stuff that I grow just to grow something, and I give it away to other people. This year is going to be a little different. Since I started Serenity for the Soul, I'm doing pottery. I'm getting back into my woodworking stuff that I did, so I am going to be doing a farmer's market with that stuff, and then I will take vegetables to the farmer's market, flowers, cut flowers in pottery bases or whatever, and probably plants in little ceramic plant pots and things like that. So, but just to give you an idea, so I have that area in the back, and then out front, in the front of my house, I have flowers and shrubs planted all along the front of my house and all along one side of the house, around the corner, to meet where that deck area is. And last year, we had graveled beside our garage on the other side of the house, and for trailers, and I no longer have these trailers. So I had a friend come and pull all the rock out with his skid loader and tear it up for me, and I seeded a wildflower bed. And I planted a bunch of garlic. This would have been like a year ago last fall, so fall of 24. And then when spring came, I planted my onions in there beside the garlic, and then all the wildflowers started growing, and then I got this brilliant idea that I could stick some pumpkin seeds in there. And so I had kind of my wildflowers did fairly well, the pumpkins actually did fairly well, but they kind of took over some of the wildflowers, which I was kind of surprised. The garlic did outstanding. I had more garlic than I could ever use, and when I get home from Arizona, I will be dehydrating that garlic and making garlic powder with it. I did not plant any garlic this last fall. I may plant a few bulbs this spring, or a few cloves. I haven't decided yet if I'm going to or not, but I have decided I know garlic and onions and stuff like the heat, and that was a good spot because I was on the west side of my garage, and the sun reflecting off of the brick on the house. I mean, that it's very warm ground. But I've decided the wildflowers need a little space to move around, and yeah, I'm gonna keep the vegetable stuff out of there this year. So that being said, I think I'm going to add another raised bed, maybe a little bit smaller one, like maybe a 6x3 type raised bed, that I can use for whatever in my rotation. That's the other thing, like I rotate, I don't plant the same thing in the same spot each year. So if one planter box is say tomatoes and green beans one year, then I moved that to the other raised bed the following year. So I try to rotate, and I try to do plant combos that work together, and I'll stick flowers and herbs and stuff in between all the plants. I don't give them like their own square foot, but like at the corners where each square foot meets, not every single one, but I will stick in, an herb or a marigold or a geranium or nasturtium or something that helps with pests in vegetable gardens. So I do a lot of, like I said, companion type planting and things like that. And I'm still planting my little strip too, and year before last I used plastic and mulch, and it did really well as far as allowing the plants room to grow. It kept like the watermelons and the squash and things like that off the ground. And then last spring I just ran out of time and I didn't put the plastic back down, and things did okay, but they didn't do great. So I am going to put my plastic back down again this year. So that being said, I'm starting to go through my catalogs to figure out if there's certain things, certain varieties I want to try, new plants I want to try, what all I want to do. And I'm going to have that extra space of that other bed, but I will be planting onions in it in somewhere that they normally aren't. But that won't take up the whole thing. So I'm going to have probably a little extra space. And so yeah, I'm just trying to determine what all I'm going to plant this year. And like I said, a lot of it I don't even plant for my personal consumption or even my family's consumption. My daughter has a big garden of her own, so I don't really have to give them anything. They probably have more stuff than I do. But I do share with my mom and my in-laws and friends, neighbors, whoever. But like I said, I will be hauling stuff to a farmer's market this year, so I'm trying to keep that in mind as far as like what would be easy and popular vegetable wise at farmers markets. So yeah, so I'm working through all my planning right now. I guess my explanation of where everything is at my house. So I have that wildflower area now on the west side of my garage. Out at the end of my driveway, I live out in the country in Iowa, so we're on 80 acres. So our yard is very large. So at the end of my driveway, I had a perennial bed. It struggled. And so we had taken it out, and it was just mowed as part of the yard. And we had a big boulder out there that we had gotten out of a field, and then we had planted some little shrubs around it and things. But it's just an area that was always, it was kind of a pain to trim with the mower because you had the shrubs and the rock. And anyway, so last year I just decided, okay, I'm gonna do something different here. So we hauled in dirt and kind of mounded up dirt on the area, and I sowed wildflower seed in it again. And part of it did really, really well, and part of it didn't do so great. So I'm gonna see like if stuff reseeded and comes up better this year. If not, I'll reseed some of it. But I like the wildflower areas because you can just let them go, and they give you cut flowers all summer long. So it was nice because I like to have my own flowers. I cut a lot of flowers and bring into my house, actually every week. And you know, I change out flowers in my bathroom and in my kitchen. So yeah, I like having my own flowers, and I should have enough to share some this year too, with both areas of wildflowers. And I've got an area in my backyard. I don't know if it's going to happen this year, but for future planning, I've got an area in my backyard that I would like to, a fairly large strip area, I would like to tear up and not have to mow anymore either. And so some sort of flowers back there also. So anyway, so that's kind of my setup on my flower beds now. Last fall I had this idea, after all perennials went on clearance and everything, I went and bought a bunch, and I have this area right, so what is planted at my house, right in front of my front porch, was just like a strip across the front of the front porch, probably 5 feet wide. And then we have a sidewalk that goes out and goes down to our shed, and it left it a grass area of about, I don't know, maybe 20 feet long by 10, 12 feet wide at the widest point, but it's like the sidewalk is curved, so part of it's narrower and it curves down. And then we have a little cement patio with a swing on it. And so with the size mowers are anymore, the people that mow for me can't get their mower between the swing and my existing flowers. And this grass was always really weird. I don't know what happened when they seeded our yard, but the grass in that spot was different than the grass in the rest of the yard. And it was wide blade and it grew super fast. So it would always be tall and ready to mow way before the rest of the yard was, and it just always looked like crap because it was right in front of the house. So I got tired of looking at it. And so last fall, after I bought all those clearance perennials, I decided to kill it, and I planted all these perennials in there. And then, because I needed some more work to do, I ordered spring bulbs. So I think, if I remember right, I may be off on this, but I think I planted around 90 some, maybe close to 100 spring bulbs in that area in between all the perennials. Thankfully, I have one of those little auger things that goes in your drill, and that worked great for the most part. So I didn't have to hand dig all those holes, but I did wear a blister on my hand because I'm not real good about wearing gloves. I don't know. I feel like I don't have the dexterity if I have gloves on, but anyway. So I'm in Arizona, so I don't know if anything is starting to pop up there at all yet. I know we've been warm. We were really cold, so I know they got their cold that they needed. And then it's been warm the last week or so, and it's supposed to be in the 40s the rest of this week. I don't think anything will really start coming up until the first part of March. I do have some crocuses and some early bulbs that will probably start coming up. And I'll have my son keep an eye on it and send me some videos and photos and stuff if stuff starts coming up. But yeah, so in addition to my flowers, I have some fruit trees that I struggle with. I'm gonna have somebody come in and I think this year, and actually plant some good sized trees. I struggle with my deer. They like to rub on my fruit trees and break them off. And I even fenced around them, and they still managed to break one off. So without making it a total nightmare to try to mow the yard, I can't come up with a solution other than to plant large trees that they can't break off. And then I have some black raspberry bushes I planted last year. I have some blueberry bushes. I'm just really looking forward to spring getting here so I can go out and show you guys everything, and I plan on bringing you along. That it becomes my morning routine, and it's something I need. I need to have like things that keep me occupied, because grief is a bitch. I'm just gonna say it. It's been 7.5 years, and it still sucks as much as it did in the first year. I don't sit around and cry all day like I did then, but it's still always just right there. And any little thing can like set me off. So I'm very into my routine now. I have a breakfast routine, and in the spring, summer months and into fall, I just have a morning routine. So I have a breakfast routine, then I get my basket, I go out, I water things, I pick things, I check things, I weed things if they need it, I treat things if they need. I kind of walk my whole area almost every day, and that, yeah, is my kind of part of my grief therapy. I still plant a lot of flower pots because I take them to the cemetery, then I bring them home, and I have like a lot of relatives, and I was really good about putting flowers out on many generations, but the last 2 years I've had stuff stolen from the cemetery the week of Memorial Day, and so last year I didn't do near as much as I normally do, and it's not even the cost of the stuff, and they were nice planters that they took and whatever. It's not even the cost, it's the principle of the thing, the morally, how wrong is it to steal from a cemetery? I don't know. I don't understand people. Last year I seriously contemplated about going and buying really nice planters and sticking air tags in the bottom of them. And I didn't do it, but I might this spring. I might. I've had stuff stolen at two different cemeteries in rural Iowa. And yeah, it's very frustrating. So anyway, I digress. But I will be planting lots of pots of flowers, so I will probably bring you along with that process. I spend more at greenhouses than I care to discuss, and which I'm sure a lot of you do too. So yeah, so I'm really looking forward to spring, so I can start bringing the gardening crew from YouTube along for the ride with me here. This channel is I started it as a way to share how creative outlets can help you process your grief, can help you find some peace and some calm in your world when nothing feels peaceful or calm. Everything is just chaotic without your person. It just is, and it still is. But I had to have things to calm my mind, to get my mind someplace else. And these were things, the gardening thing was things I did on a smaller scale, and I've just kind of increased. The pottery thing is new. Last fall, I just decided I was putting a pottery studio in part of a shed on our farm. And so I started that, and so I hope some of my gardening peeps will also, you know, check out the pottery things, because I'm doing planters, I'm doing vases. My planters at this point aren't large planters, but they are very cute. And actually I'll have some to share tomorrow after I get some stuff out of the kiln. Like I said, right now I'm in Arizona, snowbirding, and so I don't have my own kiln. Obviously it's at home in Iowa. So I'm reliant on the studio that I'm working at as to when my stuff comes out. So I haven't had a kiln unload for a while, and so I will be sharing that probably tomorrow night. And yeah, so I just wanted to give you kind of a brief introduction into my gardening thing. Back to the channel thing, I mean, I'm trying to show people, like, I've done a lot of things over the last 7.5 years to try to, like, help process and help just make life a little easier to deal with. And anything from writing, I do a lot of cooking, I always have, canning, the pottery thing, like I said, is new. The woodworking stuff is not new, but I haven't been doing it for a while, so I'm gonna start back up again. I went through a period of redecorating rooms in my home after he died, just not to make a change, but just for something to do. And I would throw everything like into redecorating these rooms. Like, I would spend weeks like trying to pick out a picture or a color or the right piece of furniture or this or that and the other. And I shared my journey on my Facebook page, and a lot of people responded very positively to it. And so over the years, I've had people ask me to write a book. I don't want to. So this is a way I can maybe help some people that are newly grieving. My goal is to be able to have people in my local community that are newly grieving be able to come out to the farm and use this one of my creative outlets to find some peace for an afternoon. And I don't want to have to charge people to do it. So whether it's doing pottery, whether it's building a little shelf for your bathroom, whether it's picking flowers, you know, just I'm gonna try to have some classes where I have some actual artists come in and maybe do painting classes, maybe do just other sorts of crafts, or stained glass, or, you know, whatever it is. So the more I can grow this channel, the more that helps me be able to provide that to my local, my local community. I try to reach out to people that are friends, neighbors, you know, people I know, even if I'm not close to them and they've lost someone close. I do try to reach out to them. I have little things I send them or take them that are just items that kind of helped me, you know, in ways when I was new in all of this. Yeah, so I don't want to get too into all that tonight, but I did want to share that the gardening journey will be starting soon, and I will put some links on here and some pictures regarding square foot gardening and regarding kind of my area at my home from last summer or from a few summers ago, just some pictures that I have. I take a lot of pictures. And I will also put the pictures on from today, from my drive up into the desert mountainy area, and up to Lake Bartlett, and the poppies and the lupines and the cactuses, and the just overall landscape was beautiful. I need to get better at my desert plant identification, so I might have to buy me a book to help with that. So I'm going to sign off for now. Enjoy the pictures at the end of this, and I will talk to you all soon. Bye.
Hey everyone, here are a few pictures from my home over the last few years, flowers and garden wise. One thing I forgot to mention in my video is 3 years ago I had my back deck redone because I was bricking my home, and the deck had to come off in order for them to brick the house. So I had them redo the deck with composite decking and extend it a little bit and build me a pergola, which you will see in some of these pictures, which just kind of added to the area. And then from the leftover decking, those planter boxes I was talking about that were our old swimming pool benches, were starting to rot. I mean, they were over 20 years old. So I used the leftover decking and some cedar framing wood to frame new planter boxes and cover it with the composite decking. So towards the end, you will see the new planter boxes on my deck, in addition to the raised bed planters that are on the ground beside the deck. I hope you enjoy the pictures, and I really look forward to being able to take you live around my yard this spring and show you everything. I do have a very beautiful area that I'm grateful for, and I would love to share it with everybody. So I hope you will subscribe to my page and follow me, or to my channel, and follow me this summer as I plant the new season's flowers and vegetable garden. Thanks for watching. everyone, Sherry again. These are the pictures from north of Phoenix of the poppies and the lupines blooming. The first one is like a hillside just covered in yellow. I have a few better pictures on my camera that I need to get off of there sometime. But for now, I put on what I had on my phone. Like I said, I'm not good at my desert plant identification skills yet, but the area was beautiful, and it's just amazing how when you think of Phoenix, you think desert, but it's just absolutely surrounded by mountainous areas. Always gorgeous. And the last photo is actually coming back down, looking into the valley of Phoenix there in the valley part of that, and the mountains off to the south even, so that it's just absolutely surrounded.